What's going on YouTube? It's your boy the D20 here, bringing you a Demon Slayer discussion video. Now this will be the first part in my breathing series where I go over all of the breathing techniques and styles that are covered in the Demon Slayer universe. And I never thought I'd say this because I've heard this so many times. Believe me, I watch a lot of YouTube. But if you like what you see and you want to see more, definitely hit the like and subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And leave me a comment down below telling me what you think of the video. But without further ado, let's get started. The breathing styles are the combat styles utilized by the Demon Slayer Corps. The demons that they fight can regenerate, have magic powers, are stronger, and have longer lifespan than humans, which I believe are actually immortal. So the Demon Slayers aren't working with much. In order to combat the demons, they use what are called breathing styles. The breathing styles are, as the name suggests, breathing styles, breathing techniques rather, that actually give them the power to fight the demons. By taking in air and distributing it throughout their body, they can enhance their muscles, and that therefore increases their strength to be able to fight on par with the demons. Now, the demons themselves, not the demons themselves, the demon slayers, I'm not doing another take. Demon slayers themselves are actually normal humans, and the only weapon they have to fight the demons are their Nichiren blades. Now, the Nichiren blades are special blades that are made from metals from a mountain that are constantly year-round bathed in sunlight, so they absorb its properties. And the styles are named after elements such as water, wind, and thunder. And one thing to keep in mind is no matter what the anime actually says, they do not give you the ability to use the elements. So you can't summon a wave of water with a swing of your sword, strike lightning with your sword, or summon fire with your sword. That is all window dressing used by the author to actually enhance the Demon Slayer experience, especially in the anime. Now, I read the manga, and yes, I say manga, not manga, so sorry. But yes, it's something that the author uses to enhance the visual experience. Now, that being said, the breathing styles are actually named for the movements, such as water, which has a lot of flowing movements. So their styles and the techniques are named for the element, but rather so what the movement invokes. So when you see a water-breathing swordsman, you say, hey, he moves like water. When you see a thunder-breathing swordsman, hey, they strike like thunder. Makes sense? Now, like I said, the power of a Demon Slayer lies in the Nichiren blade, and each Nichiren blade has a specific color. Well, each breathing style, I should say, rather, has a specific color. So when a swordsman finally gets their Nichiren blade, when they touch it and unsheath it, it'll change a specific color, depending on the breathing style that they use. Beyond the general attack patterns that constitute the styles, the breathing techniques also allow their user to do things that normal breathing simply just can't do, such as stopping the spread of poison, such as what Zenitsu did on Mount Natsugumo, or stopping bleeding by coagulation, which Tanjiro is able to do later on in the series. Now, me myself personally, I've broken the breathing styles down into different categories. There's one primary style, 6 secondary styles, 6 tertiary styles, and I believe one or two, I believe it's one quadrary, I don't know if that's a word and I'm not looking it up, styles. So when I say primary, it's the style that beget them all. Secondary are the styles that were directly derived from the primary style, and tertiary, which are derived from the secondary styles, which are therefore derived from the first. Just want to go ahead and get that out there. Now, this particular video is going to be about water breathing. Water breathing is one of the 6 secondary styles derived from the primary breathing style. See, comes in handy already. Water breathing is characterized by flowing movements and twisting motions, hence the name water. In terms of difficulty, it's said to be the easiest to learn, which has caused it to be most common among demon slayers. So you're going to see a lot more demon slayers using water breathing than any other breathing style out there. And as I was mentioning, every style has a specific color associated with the Nichiren blades of the styles themselves. The color of a skilled water breathing swordsman's sword, redundant statement is redundant, will turn blue. I know, water being blue, shocker. But now, without further ado, let's get on to the techniques themselves. Water breathing, first form, water surface slash, Ichi no kata, Minamogiri. This style is really basic. What it does is this style, when the swordsman uses it, they will essentially just gather enough momentum to do a basic slash. I'm not kidding. That's pretty much it. There really is nothing more to this style. Thankfully, water breathing does have some pretty significantly more complex styles. So believe me, this isn't going to be a 5-minute video. Second form, water wheel. Ninokata, Mizugurama. Now with this one, it's a vertical slash, but like I said, it's a bit more complex. It's more than just a vertical slash. For this form, the swordsman will actually do a flip so that they can slash in front of them, but also this particular slash will go 180 degrees. So essentially this technique will be able to slash the swordsman in front of them, below them if there's somebody coming below them, directly behind them, and above them. So, like I said, it's a 180 degree slash where the swordsman, it's a vertical 180 degree slash. I'm not doing enough to take of this. I'm just not. Second form, improved lateral water wheel. Now, this is one of 2 specific techniques in water breathing that have a variant created by Tanjiro himself. This is the first. Now, this is the lateral water wheel. So, as the name suggests, it's the water wheel, but done in a lateral fashion. So, rather than a vertical 180 degree slash, it'll be a 180 degree slash, but horizontal. This was used on Mount Naragumo when Tanjiro cut down the tree so that he could stand on the stump and prepare to do the 10th breathing technique, which we'll talk about later. And important to note about water wheel and water wheel lateral. In the anime, it was noted that when Tanjiro used this technique, the lateral water wheel, he shot out a slash of water. Like I was saying, that's window dressing. That's not how it was. In the manga, he actually just made contact using lateral water wheel. And after he was thrown a couple of miles, or a mile or so, by the father demon, yeet, he actually used the regular water wheel to slow his fall and descent. Now, I'm no physics student. I'm no physician. Not physician. That's a doctor. I'm no doctor of physics, but I have a distinct feeling that if you were to try that in real life, you'd still die. Now, if the sword could summon water and you were doing like a water cycle thing, I think I could understand that more, but that's not how it is. Like I said, the water and everything you see in the anime and in the manga are just window dressing. It's just to situate movement. Water breathing. Third form, flowing dance. San no kata, ryumai. For this form, the swordsman swings his blade at his opponent to mimic the movement of waves of the surface of water. Pretty much, this is just a dance. Well, it's not a dance per se, but it's rather a way of moving. So in this form, it's not the strike that's the style or the technique. It's of course, like I said, it's a sword fighting style, so you're gonna cut your opponent, but rather it's moving around your opponent in such a way to kind of dodge and just ebb and flow. Fourth form, water breathing. Fourth form, striking tide. Shinokata, Uchishio. Let me see. In this one, whereas the third form can be thought of as water flowing, the fourth form is water crashing. The swordsman will make multiple consecutive slashes while twisting their body in a flowing fashion, similar to a harsh tide. Like I said, this form, you crash. You are slashing at your opponent constantly to pretty much cut off their head. Yet again, you're fighting demons here, and they can only be killed by cutting off heads. Now, this form has the distinction of being the first form that Tanjiro used when he entered Final Selection. And I believe it was this form that allowed him to cut off the Tamari demon's arms. Now, on to the fifth form. Water breathing. Fifth form. Blessed rain after the drought. Go no kata. Kanten Jiu. This is a sword strike of kindness. This is a technique that's to be used on an opponent that no longer has the will to fight. As we see on Mount Naragumo, Tanjiro used this once he saw that the mother spider was no longer capable of fighting. When he saw that she visibly surrendered and given up, he decided to use this. This is a merciful strike. It's meant to end the battle quickly and painlessly. Like mercy. Pretty much think of it like you're lost in a desert and you have given up and it starts raining. You know, you're thirsty, whatnot. It can be thought of as God's mercy, and that's what this is. Let me see. Water breathing. Sixth form. Whirlpool. Roku no kata. Nejire uzu. And for this form, the swordsman violently twists his upper and lower body, creating a whirlpool that cut through anything that comes close to you. Pretty much, this is another example of a technique that would probably be more useful, quote unquote, if you actually summon water from your sword. This one, pretty much, it's twisting. Yet again, it's water. Like a whirlpool twists and draws things in, this technique does the same. And even though you can't summon the water, even using it out of water, if you were to be pelted by projectiles and you were to use this form, you could also use it as a means to knock away the projectiles. And also, as the splitting demon, which I call the splitting demon, I can't remember the name of the demon off the top of my head, which I'll probably put on screen in post-production. When he actually tried to drag Tanjiro into that black swamp and thought he could do something, yeah, Tanjiro taught that ass that you don't put a water-breathing swordsman in water. And this is the second of the styles that have improved forms. Whirlpool Flow. Nejire Uzu Riryu. This is a combination of the third and sixth forms. Pretty much uses the footwork of the third form and the twisting motions of the sixth to conjure a twisting, swirling, vicious flow of water that is supposed to redirect projectiles. Yet again, I think this technique's come about was yet again due to the author getting a little too caught up in his own power system, where yet again those swords cannot project water, thunder, etc., and they can't help you. Pretty much this was used against not the Tamari demon, but the arrow demon. When those arrows were giving Tanjiro some problems, he came up with this technique in order to be able to subdue the arrows and have them stop screwing with him, because if we all remember, during that fight he was kind of getting his ass kicked. And we have a unique form here. Water breathing. Seventh form. Drop ripple thrust curve. Shich no kata. Shizuku Hamonzuki Kyoku. It's known as drop ripple in the English dub. This is the fastest water breathing technique, and for good reason. It's a thrusting technique, whereas other water breathing techniques focus on gathering momentum, flowing, going with the flow, ebbing and flowing, crashing, and successive attacks. This one, it's a simple stab, which Tanjiro used to pierce one of Tamari Demon's balls when it was about to destroy him. And that's it. I know this is the lone thrusting technique out of water breathing. Water breathing. Eighth form. Waterfall basin. Hachi no kata. Takitsubo. Whereas the second form is a vertical slash that goes in a 180-degree motion so you can cut what's around you. This form could be seen as just a powerful downward strike. You build the momentum through dropping your sword, and at one singular point, that's where the force of your strike would be. The next is another very interesting form. Water breathing. Ninth form. Splashing water flow turbulent. Kyo no kata. Suiyu Shibuki Ran. Now for this one, it is neither offensive nor defensive. Rather, it's supplementary. Pretty much it's a stepping technique. To go into it more specifically, it decreases the landing time and surface needed when landing, allowing you to move relatively unhindered. It's ideal when fighting in a place with no stable footing. As we can see in the mansion early in the series, the same mansion where he met Zenitsu. Well, after he met Zenitsu. Tanjiro, when he was fighting the exiled good lord, when he was fighting the exiled Lower Moon 6, what Tanjiro did, and he was injured at the time, thanks to the exiled Lower Moon 6, he had no footing because of his demon blood art. He was making the room move around so violently. So what Tanjiro did was use this to eliminate the need for him to have stable footing so that he could properly attack and, as we see, decapitate the exiled Lower Moon 6. I'm telling you, those upper and lower moons, they're gonna get me, but we're gonna chug right along. It's the first video, don't gotta be perfect. And the next is gonna be the last of the commonly known water breathing techniques. Water breathing, 10th form, constant flux, Junakata, Seseryuten. Now, this form is called constant flux, but I was watching a fan translation at the time. I believe it was before I started watching on Hulu. But this, I believe it was called Constant Water Dragon of Change, which is, I believe, would be the more literal translation, which is why, as you can see when it was being used, there was a visage of a water dragon falling behind Tanjiro. This technique, you could say it's the perfected version of the improved 6th form, even though this was made before the improved 6th form. Whereas that took rotation and everything in its premise to be able to block projectiles. This takes that to a whole new level and uses it for offense. This technique, pretty much what happened, as we can see when Tanjiro fought Rui, he would block an attack with his sword. He would take an attack with his sword, which was broken at the time, and spin. This is so that he can gather rotation. When a water breathing swordsman uses this technique, they are constantly gathering momentum and using the rotation to increase their force, so that when they finally do strike, that blow is devastating. And even as Rui was noticing, if Rui had been a little more conceited, Tanjiro probably would have killed him right there. Because if he hadn't amped up his demon blood art, Tanjiro would have taken off his head. But yes, that is the penultimate technique, which is when Inosuke watched when Tanjiro, before he got chucked, yeet, once again, when he was watching him, when he said something awesome was coming, this was the technique. The final, or at least what he believed was the final water breathing technique, was coming. And potentially it had the possibility of killing the father spider. Now, the next and true final technique of water breathing is used exclusively by the current water Hashira, Gyu Tamioka. Water breathing, 11th form, dead calm, Juichi no Kata, Nagi. This form is the ultimate move and signature move of the current water Hashira, Gyu Tamioka, yet again. This technique hasn't been widely taught, so it is solely used by him. What happens is, when using this technique, he'll take out his sword and cease movement, which is where the dead calm name comes from. He will not move until he is struck. Now, when used on Rui on Mount Naraguma, you think when his ultimate blood threads were coming at him, they just fell apart. They didn't. What happens is, and how this technique actually works, is that Gyu will swing his sword to meet incoming attacks. And due to his strength as a Hashira, they'll normally fall. So even though Rui was using his ultimate attack, they stood no chance. Those threads stood no chance of withstanding this blade. And don't get it twisted, if Tanjiro had known this technique at the time, he wouldn't have been able to cut them. This technique isn't special. It's just that Gyu had that much strength. Now, when I originally saw this technique, now back then, I also believed, like most people, that, those swords can summon water. So I originally thought it worked, was that Gyu would summon his sword and he'd use water particles in the air to cut incoming attacks, pretty much using his still body as a decoy to draw those attacks in. But that's not how it works. And even though this is probably the strongest defensive technique that we've seen in the series, it's not perfect. As you'll see later on in the series, Gyu does come across a few opponents strong enough to overcome it. This can be done by either numerous attacks, so many attacks that he can't see them, or by strong attacks. once Giyu's fighting a demon, where even though he's using this technique, you can see clashes in the air where his sword is meeting the other strikes that are coming at him, and they still manage to get through. But those are the 11 forms of water breathing, as they are known. Next, I'm going to do a little bit of talking about the users of the form. Now, the first person who comes to mind is the main protagonist of the series, Tanjiro Kamado, who uses the style to great effect. Now, early on when he met Giyu, after Nezuko had been turned into a demon, Giyu noticed that Tanjiro had a certain flexibility about him, and a talent for fighting that really impressed him. And believe me, Giyu is not an easy person to impress. So he eventually goes on to recommend that Tanjiro train with Sakanji Urokodaki so that he can become a demon slayer and use water breathing. Now, early on in the series and throughout the series, Tanjiro does display that he is quite knowledgeable of the style and has considerable skill using it. And this can be shown by the fact that he mastered all 10 forms prior to his taking on the final selection. And it serves him well thanks to that flexibility of thought until he finds his true path. Now, like I was saying earlier, this style is the most common out of all breathing styles, and the breathing styles themselves are taught by cultivators. Now, the primary, not the only cultivator is Sakanji Urokodaki. He's the elderly man in the Tengu mask. Now, he himself is a former Hashira. I believe, well, I don't know, he may have taken the position. He may have had the position before Giyu, or, I don't think he did. I think somebody else had held the position before Giyu. But he is thought to be quite strong. The only time we see him fight in the series are the flashbacks when he fought that young demon that eventually became that demon that kept killing his students in final selection. Now, in regards to his strength, it can be said that the fact that he lived to be elderly and has all his limbs can be a testament to his power, because as you'll see, as you've seen throughout the Demon Slayer anime and manga, this is a job that you don't normally live to see old age, but this man did it. But yes, at least from his school, it's been kind of rocky over the last few years because of said demon on the final selection mountain. He hasn't had a lot of students pass. I believe Giyu was the last student to pass before Tanjiro. But beyond Sakanji, the only other notable demon slayer who uses water breathing to talk about would be Giyu Tamioka himself. The current Water Hashira and one of the more cool and aloof characters. I really do like Giyu. I think he might be my favorite character. But he yet again created the 11th form, and as I'm gonna do a Giyu discussion video at some point. So I'm gonna try to keep it brief. But one thing that the other Hashira, that Tanjiro, that Sakonji, that everybody says that Giyu is built for this. He's built for water breathing. He may not seem it, but when it comes to flowing and crashing, the man's a master. But beyond that, Giyu, he is the older brother sibling of Tanjiro, and thought to be sort of a mentor, not a direct mentor, but sort of a mentor to the boy. But as far as other water breathers, we have Sabito and Mokumo, the two ghosts who helped Tanjiro cut the rock as part of his final exam under Urokodaki so he could take his final selection, and Murata, who the team meets on Mount Natsugumo. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is water breathing. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Yet again, if you like what you heard today, definitely hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell, so you get notification of my videos. And thank you to Lithanel, aka Blueberry Green Tea, a good friend of mine who made the thumbnail for this video. But yes, yet again, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me, who's your favorite character? What do you like about water breathing? And special question: if you could make any other move, you create a water breathing move of your own, so form 12 and up, what would it be? Hit me with that in the comments. But without any other rambling, this has been your boy, the D20, signing out. See you guys.